Maywood Home for Soldiers' Widows was built in 1924. It was sponsored by the Daughters of Union Veteran Society to provide maintenance, nursing, and care for elderly widows of fallen Union soldiers of the Civil War and their children. The widows had been housed at the Logan Home, named in honor of Civil War general from Illinois, John Logan. That building was the former mansion of Maywood founder Colonel William Nichols. The new, larger Maywood Home for Soldiers' Widows provided 34 individual bedrooms, communal bathrooms, a family gathering room, and a large dining room with a kitchen, from which daily meals were served for the residents until 1978.
My name is Edgar Leroy Heastand Jr., and my great aunt, Emily Louise Heastand, was a resident of the Maywood Widows Home. And Emily's father was in the Union Army in the Ohio 32nd and fought in several battles, Allegheny, McDowell, and at the Battle of Harper's Ferry, where he was a drummer, he was captured. I have a lot of the letters and scrapbooks and Civil War medals that she inherited from her father. My aunt's father was released, and being a carpenter, he came to Chicago, and there had been a great fire here. So there was a lot of work, and he set up a carpentry shop and was part of the rebuilding of this city at that time. My aunt, who had been a teacher in Chicago, had moved to Maywood and lived in a house on First Avenue, taking care of her father. And until he died in 1918. And then she went down to Rust College in Holly Springs, Mississippi, and she was a teacher preceptress on the staff there, a black college which is still there and still doing good work. It was after that she moved back to Maywood, to the widow's home. I remember, and I was just a child then, that we would come from Oak Park on the Lake Street streetcar, which would go out to Fifth Avenue. We'd get out, and I remember coming up to where she lived in the widow's home, and up the stairs and the pillars and the stately entrance, and we would go in there. It was maybe part of what we did on Memorial Days, where we would go out after that to Arlington Cemetery in Elmhurst and plant flowers on the grave of her father and others who are buried there.
The building was designed by prominent Maywood architect Francis E. Dunlap. Dunlap was born in Maywood and later served as Maywood trustee until his death at only 32 years of age in 1927. He had been a Maywood Library board member and was also the designer of the grand structure for the Maywood State Bank, now standing on the southeast corner of Fifth Avenue and Lake Street. Dunlap's stately design for this Maywood Home for the Soldiers' Widows building is a fine example of the Federalist style, featuring red brick, arched windows, limestone accents, and classical detailing inside and out. It remains today as a solidly built and highly fire-resistant structure with extraordinary character and a great memorial and historic significance. The building is believed to be one of only 2 such structures still standing nationwide. It has been determined eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places by the Illinois Historic Preservation Agency. The building has been owned by the Village of Maywood since 2008 and vacant since 2003. Recent efforts to promote commercial adaptive reuses for this building have led to the restoration of the front portico, a comprehensive reuse study, preparations to inspire redevelopment proposals, and the formation of the Friends of the Maywood Home for Soldiers' Widows.
Hello, I'm Mike Rogers. I'm a former Maywood trustee and a current activist and volunteer within the community. I'm an architect. I've been doing architecture for 35 years. I did 32 years with McDonald's Corporation, developing McDonald's all over the United States. I was the national president for the National Organization of Minority Architects, and I served as the state president for the AIA, the American Institute of Architects, here in Illinois. I am also enthused with architecture in general, but with preservation, adaptive reuses, land usage, and planning. And in that, I've taken an interest of the Maywood Home for Soldiers' Widows for the last, I'd say, decade or so. I am thoroughly convinced that the Maywood Home for Soldiers' Widows has the potential of being revitalized and reused within this community. I think some of the key things that need to happen is there needs to be an understanding that it indeed can be revived. Developers need to know about it, so I expect to be an instrument to the promotion, the awareness, as well as solidifying the vision and advocating for the vision of reusing that facility. I happen to know that it is absolutely a doable thing. One of the things is when something sits in disrepair or when something sits vacant, people begin to think that that's all that it can be. Well, everything that's beautiful in this world was at one time something else. It was not yet at its realized potential. Well, I just believe that it's a matter of time. With the right people, and the right attitude, and the right promotion, we will find that person or that entity who's willing to make that development because they indeed can see the potential that it has. So I would say let's stay diligent and let's stay tuned and stay behind the Maywood Home for Soldiers' Widows adaptive reuse.
Hi, I'm Lisa DeKier, Director of Advocacy at Landmarks, Illinois. We are the statewide historic preservation advocacy organization for the state of Illinois. And we've been involved in the Soldiers' Widows Home in Maywood for some time, since 2012. So Landmarks, Illinois placed the Soldiers' Widows Home on our annual Most Endangered Historic Places list in Illinois in 2012. We felt that not only is this building that was built in 1924 a building that has great history to the village of Maywood because of the community that it served, but also architecturally, it is a very important building in the architectural legacy of the village. We engaged two architecture firms, one Vinci Hamp, the other Sullivan, Goulet, and Wilson, and did a very comprehensive study, not only of how the building itself could be reused, but also of the entire site owned by the village, which includes the vacant land just to the south of Soldiers' Widows Home, and really showed how comprehensively the entire thing could be redeveloped, retaining the historic building. We also demonstrated that on the acreage just to the south of it that is vacant, that there's an opportunity to do further retail development or office development, and all of it could be done by one developer, the entire site together comprehensively, providing close to 60 parking spaces, and in the historic building providing over 7,000 square feet of leasable space, and then on the vacant site anywhere from 17 to over 18,000 square feet of leasable space. We hope the village will use this study as a marketing tool for both properties, for the Soldiers' Widows Home and the vacant land. We really thought it was a comprehensive development site because a developer who develops new construction can also help finance the reuse of the older historic building, and it can be done separately as well, but we wanted to show that there's options. Most importantly for the Soldier's Widow's Home, because it is a locally designated landmark and because it is also listed in the National Register of Historic Places, there are certain tax incentives available for its rehabilitation. Mainly at the federal level, the 20% federal historic tax credit is available because of its National Register listing. And then the Class L, Cook County property tax incentive, is available because of its local landmark designation. So again, Landmarks Illinois is here as a resource. We continue to advise as we can on this significant property. Its prominent location at Lake and First really functions as a gateway to the community and has the ability to be, if rehabilitated and reused, a gateway once again to the downtown of Maywood.
I'm Christopher Payne with the architecture firm of Sullivan Gillette Wilson in Chicago. We were engaged in 2014 by Landmarks Illinois to do a reuse study of the Soldier's Widow's Home here in Maywood. Because of the home's location adjacent to a large vacant property, it has a lot of opportunity in terms of allowing for a major addition to be put adjacent to it. It has ample opportunity for the addition of parking. It's a federal-style building built in the early 1920s. The interior of the structure also has a lot of historic elements. It still has its historic staircase and a lot of the beautiful woodwork that was typical of structures of this era. The layout of the structure also, because it was an institutional use, it has a lot of large open central spaces. It had a large central eating area, a central kitchen, as well as central bathrooms, which are all, conducive to replanning for a future office or assembly use. I know that at one point there was discussion of putting a restaurant and jazz club on the inside of the widow's home, and that seems, like a perfect use because the interior has a lot of beautiful detailing. Also because it can be easily manipulated and changed to conform to those types of uses. Because of its location at a major intersection and because of its beautiful styling, the structure really acts as a gateway to Maywood and is an iconic structure for the community. Its location on the major transportation routes also makes it highly accessible, so that that becomes an asset for anybody developing it. A lot of neighboring communities, would find this a very easy location to access because of its location along major streets.
Good afternoon. I'm Irvin Henderson of Henderson & Company. I am a real estate developer that specializes in preservation, especially urban infill. We're here at the Widow's Home in the village of Maywood, talking to you about the importance of redevelopment and restoration of an incredible artifact known as the Widow's Home. What we would like to see is an adaptive reuse here that will accommodate the rest of the neighborhood and bring services that are needed for the entire area. And as you can see, it is an incredible structure, and I'm sure that the adaptive reuses will bring profit. Around the country, developers and development consultants like myself are working with these old, venerable, beautiful properties for a number of different adaptive reuse decisions. Many of them are looking to the entertainment field and are bringing jazz and blues, even classical music to these spaces. There are opportunities to use them in conjunction with other entertainment type venues as well. And of course, there's always the use of office space and professional service space that indeed is needed for this neighborhood. The idea is to come up with the best use that protects the historic fabric and serves the current population in such a way that it becomes sustainable. We feel that there are a number of professionals who will be interested in working with anyone who wants to bring back this facility, because this is one of the most important architectural facilities in the area as well. So after looking at all of the area, if you were to do the adaptive reuse special services and facilities in this building, and then you were to do a residential tower directly on the properties to the right, and perhaps a services building on the village-owned property across the street, then merge that with your green space and your entertainment space where you have the canoeing area, put all of that together, and you know what you might just have? You might just have a neighborhood.
This locally landmarked former Maywood home for soldiers' widows is an ideal structure for economic development. Due to both its architecture and location, it has extreme potential for adaptive reuse as office space, restaurant, and/or music venue, lodging, store retail, and the list goes on. It will continue to be a location for ongoing historic and cultural activity, offering and providing Maywood residents and surrounding communities a true and authentic sense of place.